Yo, welcome to Sig Slayers, the comic interview show, period. I'm Mike the Sig Slayer, chilling with Mark the Honorable Villain. What up, fam?
What's up, Mike? We've been waiting on this one. This guy's been part of Marvel's biggest events. Let him know who we got.
That's right. We have comic artist Mark Morales joining us. But before we chat with Mark, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and please comment. All right. Our next guest, his work can be seen in X-Men, X-Force, Nubia, Queen of the Amazon, and Marvel Civil War. Ladies and gentlemen of the Stash Land, we bring to you artist Mark Morales. How you doing, Mark?
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. We're so excited. We jazzed up to have you here. We're going to just dive right on in. So Mark, since it's your first time on the show, we like to get your comic book origin story. In other words, how did you get your first gig in pro comics?
So that was around 1993-ish or so. I went to School of Visual Arts in New York City. Had teachers like Will Eisner and Harvey Kurtzman and Gene Colan and a bunch of guys. I did a job for Will when I was in college, but my first job, I guess, out of comics, in comics was Evil Ernie from Chaos Comics.
Oh, wow.
Actually. So I was working, after I got out of school, I worked for an animation studio for about a year and hated it. And then worked in some clothing design stuff for a bit. And then decided, let me put a real portfolio together to get into comics. So I, sat there for like 6 months and really got it together. And then just went to conventions, like constantly showing it to everybody. And I was at a convention in New York, I think maybe actually New Jersey. And I ran into Stephen Hughes, who was the penciler of Evil Ernie and Lady Death. And they were looking for an inker on their book because the first series had come out through Eternity in black and white, but this was going to be through their company, Chaos Comics, and they weren't doing it full color. So to save some of the work for Steve, since it was like a cast of millions in the book, got an inker for it. And it went well enough that I quit the job, my day job. I was looking for a reason. So as soon as I got it, I was out. And pretty much made my way since then. Mm-hmm.
My next question, Hall of Fame teachers.
It was crazy there. It was crazy. I'm from Long Island in New York, and the options were, when I was deciding to go to art school, it was either that one or there was Joe Kubert School in New Jersey, but that was way out in the middle of nowhere. That was Kubert School. So the one in the city seemed like a better option for me. And like I said, it was like all the old guard, like the Golden Age guys. Will Eisner, who came in he flew in every 2 weeks, actually. He lived in Florida and he flew in every 2 weeks. It was Harvey
Klaus Jensen?
Klaus taught the year after I left, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but so I had him. I had Harvey Kurtzman, who created Mad Magazine. I had Joe Orlando, who was the editor-in-chief of DC. Carmine Infantino, Gene Colan, who did Daredevil. So it was,
So for all of those people, like my next question, Mark, who was like your mentor? Who are some people that was close to cuff that like really guided you and gave you some tricks of the trade? Because those are some home run hits right there.
Yeah. Gene was a really good teacher. I liked him a lot. Will, like I said, gave me one of my first jobs, actually, because like I said, he lived in Florida, and he did The Spirit back in the 40s and 50s, and they collected all that stuff, and they were republishing it in Europe in the 90s. And like I said, he lived in Florida, and they had like a hurricane at some point, and some of the original pages got damaged on the Spirit story that they were going to reprint. So he needed somebody to come in and re-ink like about 5 of the pages. So he went in and sort of loosely penciled it, and then he just asked the class who in the class thought they could do it, and we all tried it out, and I got the job and did that. Didn't pay much of anything, but I worked with Will Eisner. And, at that point, nobody can tell me nothing because I worked with one of the best of all time. So, so he was important. And then when I got out, like I said, I did the Chaos Comic thing for a bit, and this was smaller jobs here and there. And right around the same time, I started doing, maybe like 6 months probably, some background work for Joe Rubenstein, who's inked everything.
Yes.
And that was an important one. Not that I really learned that much about inking there so much, but sort of the whole professional way to do it. Joe had been doing it since he's 17. He had worked with Neil Adams back in the day. So he had and Joe was like, at that point he was doing everything. He was doing Marvel and DC versus DC, which they're doing again now. He was doing Superman and all these books. So and this was like right in the mid '90s boom. So he had like 8 or 9 books he was working on. So it just got to see how how you set up your day, how you like approach working, being at home, and everything. So that was important. Not for the inking so much because I don't ink anything like Joe, but just to learn the way to set up your day, basically.
Mark, let's talk about your time at Marvel. You did a long run on X-Force.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak on your role to keep consistency throughout a run with multiple pencilers?
Well, yeah, with X-Force, how I got that job was, like I said, I did the ingoing stuff. I did some stuff here and there. I was in Top Cow for a little bit, for a very short period of time. And then when I I was out in California for Top Cow. When I came back to New York, a buddy of mine from Long Island, Adam Polina, had just gotten on X-Force. And he was pulling for me to get on the book. And after a few issues, it worked out. And actually, he ended up buying a place in the city, like a triplex, and I ended up moving there, and we split it. It was like, a studio type of situation. Like he had the top floor, middle floor was the kitchen, the bottom floor was mine. So we were like splitting the pages there for a while. And then Jimmy Chung came on after, probably like 15 issues or so. Yeah, because I think I did X-Force from number 49 to like number 100, on and off.
Yeah.
So yeah, Adam worked up to like number 75 or 76, with some gaps here and there. And then Jimmy Chung took over after that. Yeah, I mean, keeping it consistent is not really the thing in this case because Jimmy and Adam draw completely differently. It's just a matter of putting your polish on it to make it look good,
That's a great segue into our next question because you work with a plethora of different artists. You mentioned Jim Chung, Steve McNiven, Lionel Francis Yu. How do you adapt to these different styles of art?
Well, what I do normally is I try to, before I work with somebody new, I try to get some copies of what they've worked on in the past and sort of try to figure out what in my mind works and doesn't work. And then also, usually if I get the chance, I will call or email the penciler and, introduce myself and, ask what they're looking for. And then, like 3 or 4 pages into it, I'll sort of figure out an approach. And then we go, I'll send it to them and they can tell me what they like and don't like. And then we sort of work it out from there. But you kind of, at the end of the day, you're going to ink like you're going to ink. It's just a matter of if your interpretation over their pencil line works or not. Because some people it doesn't work with well. I mean, luckily, I think most people I've worked with it's meshed pretty well, but sometimes it really doesn't. So you just have to figure it out. You got to do it and see what happens.
You have so many X books scattered throughout your career.
Mm-hmm.
Do the X-Men have a significant place in your heart? And can you tell us about your experience throughout your career working on the X books?
Yeah, the X-Men is weird. I'm an old dude now. I'm in my 50s, but for when the X-Men, John Byrne stuff became popular, for whatever reason, I could never find that book in my newsstand. Never saw it there. I had no idea. I mean, Nightcrawler appeared in a Spider-Man issue years earlier that I got. And I was like, who's this? And you see the ads in there every once in a while for the X-Men, but never saw the book. Because before the John Byrne thing, it was a bi-monthly book with Dave Cockrum. And then they started putting it out more and more, and then it became more popular. So the very first issue I saw of the classic X-Men was number 139, which was after the whole Dark Phoenix thing, after the whole I missed all that stuff. That was the one with the Wolverine with the brown costume fighting the Wendigo in Canada. So I was like, wow, this book's amazing. So I, had to hunt down the back issues. And, during that, probably right before that, I was a Marvel fan, but I think in the 80s, I was probably more of a DC fan with like the Teen Titans and Swamp Thing and all that. But once I got that issue of the X-Men and then started going back and getting all the back issues, it was like, wow, this is amazing stuff. And kept up with it after that. And that book really was the book for the 80s and into the 90s, really. So when I got a chance to do it officially, because I guess they appeared, some of the characters appeared in X-Force here and there, but the first official X-Men book I worked on was X-Men 100 with Neil Yu and Chris Claremont. And that was like, hey, you're on the X-Men. That's, the great thing about working at Marvel is that you're part of the tapestry of it. You're part of you have your little piece of. I worked in the X-Men for a bit. On the wall of people that work there, I have a little spot on there, so it's great.
You are the segue captain, man. Because you're just giving me these alley oops. Because here we go. You talk about working
LeBron and Luka, baby. Come on.
You're talking about this tapestry of Marvel stories, right? You worked on two very popular Marvel storylines, Civil War, Secret Invasion, both a part of the MCU now, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned being a part of this tapestry of Marvel history. What's it like being a part of the source material that these TV and movie shows come from?
Well, for Civil War, I only worked on a few pages of it. That was the Dexter Vines production. I just hopped in when I had to help out. Secret Invasion was the one that was that was the killer. That was have you seen the book? Everybody in the Marvel Universe, thousands of pages, thousands of people. There was a double page spread in there that had they were in Central Park fighting the Skrulls. There's 800 people on the double page spread. It's crazy. And I really, at that point, I really wanted to do every single page of it. So we did every single page of it. It nearly killed us. Came out on time. It's not like Civil War, the other ones that were delayed. This pretty much came out on time every month. And it was a lot. It was a back-breaking labor. But it was cool because it's I don't think, if I remember correctly, my memory fades, but there was Secret Wars, the first one. There was the Infinity Gauntlet. And then there was a period where they didn't really do big company-wide crossovers like that. They did in the X-Books had crossovers or in the Avengers had Atlantis Attack, but they didn't have a whole company-wide crossover till Civil War. And that was hugely successful. So to be asked to do Secret Invasion, that was great. And it helped that it was a good story.
Okay, so you've been a part of several events for Marvel.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what's the most pivotal storyline you've been a part of?
That I've worked on. Like I said, I've been lucky. I've worked on a lot of good stuff. Secret Invasion was good. The Siege series with Olivia Coipel was really good, I thought. With Olivier again and J. Michael Straczynski did Thor when they reintroduced him back into the Marvel Universe. I did some of the Young Avengers stuff with Jim Chung. And I also did a bit of it, not that much, but it was the Grant Morrison, Frank Quietly new X-Men thing when they blew up Genosha. Did a bit of that. So I've been lucky. At Marvel, I've been lucky.
Mark, when did you evolve into your own style as an artist? And how long did that process take?
Well, hopefully you keep evolving. If you're working at it and you're thinking about it, you should keep evolving. It shouldn't be like a, mechanical robot thing. You're always trying to, the way I look at it is everything I've worked on in the past, I can look back and if I know I gave an honest effort, you got to live with it. Mistakes and all, and you learn from those mistakes and you try and get better and make more refined about stuff here and there. It's when I first started inking stuff, I did everything with a brush. I did everything. I was trying to look like a Mark Farmer, Joe Rubenstein type of inker, but that really didn't work for me eventually. So especially during the image boom when everything became looking more like a Scott Williams, that Wildstorm style, right. With the dots and the dashes on the figures and everything. The brush style really wasn't working for the style of pencil I was dealing with. So I had to change my style to fit what was the predominant style at the time. And over time, it's just, you become confident and you just do what you do. And I know that I work with a lot of different pencilers and, I try to make the pencilers' work shine through, but it's always still me in there somewhere. I can see it at least, it is what it is,
What could you tell us about your creator-owned title, The Magical?
The Magical. Yeah. So this started a way back. In San Diego, I would go out there every few years, and I ran into a guy out there, Todd Harris, who he is at the time was just a storyboard artist, an aspiring storyboard artist. But and we started talking, and then we decided, let's just do something. I have a friend of mine, Abetta Lovelace, who he did a book called City of Wolves for Webtoon, and he's my co-writer on it. And we came up with this story, and had Todd start penciling it out. And this was pre-COVID, and in the time that happened, since we started writing and drawing the book, Todd blew up. He became like the key storyboard guy for all the Marvel Studios movies. Every one of them you've seen in the last 8 years he's worked on.
Oh, wow.
To the point where now he's now the director of the new World of Wakanda cartoon coming out this summer.
Oh, wow.
So obviously, when you're doing a creator-owned book, there's no money involved until the book comes out. And obviously, Todd is getting a lot of money, and I've seen his house in LA, so he needs to pay for those bills. So progress was slow to get it done. But we finally got enough of it done to get something out. So we're going to do it. It's coming out this summer. We were going to do it like earlier this year, but we decided since the cartoon's coming out in August, we're going to try and launch the campaign right around that time.
Awesome.
Are you guys splitting scripting roles on that?
No, on this one, it's me and my friend Abeta. We wrote it, and Todd, of course, came up with all the designs and whatnot, but he's just drawing it and I'm inking it.
Okay, perfect.
So.
Okay, and we're on our very last question.
Yes, sir.
Is there something that we haven't talked about that you want the fans to know about? Any upcoming appearances? Any upcoming projects? Anything you're working on right now that you want to talk about?
Well, the one thing I just started with Tony Daniel, I don't even know if I can talk about that yet. But that's from DC.
I know.
That'll probably be out summerish, I guess. Okay. I'm also doing Weapon X-Men right now with Joe Casey and Chris Cross. The number one came out last week, actually. It's kind of like the Dirty Dozen with Cable, Deadpool, Wolverine, Chamber, and Thunderbird just going on secret ops missions, basically. It's good. It's Chris. I don't know if you're familiar with Chris's stuff. He did Captain Marvel back in their early 2000s, probably late 90s, early 2000s. Has a great bombastic animated style, and he had gone up and done other stuff, but he's back now, and he's killing it, I think. So
yeah, I think I have some of the stuff. I did some stuff for Milestone like a couple years ago.
Yep. So and Joe Casey he's written a million things. He wrote the X-Men for a while. He's written Wildcat. So it's a lot of fun. It's like every issue is trying to be like a big 90s action movie, just like a Predator or something. It's crazy. So like in the current one, they're going to be fighting a bunch of cyborgs like Wolverine, basically at a healing factor. So they're fighting an army of those guys with Baron Strucker.
I got a bonus question.
Yes, sir.
You did a lot of work with Alitha Martinez, a lot of Nubia work and stuff like that. Tell me what it's like working with her artwork.
Yeah, I've known her forever. She was, when I started in the 90s, she was around, and then we sort of knew each other, but we didn't really talk or anything that much. And then I run into her from time to time. And then about maybe 6-7 years ago, Marie J. Evans, the editor at DC Comics, contacted me and said if you wanted to work with her on this thing. I said, sure. We did a specialty comic. I forget what it was for. Actually, no, I know exactly what it was for. During the whole George Floyd stuff that was happening, there was this guy, Chris Cooper, who in the famous video was walking. Some woman was walking her dog and he was out bird watching or something.
Oh, in New York.
Oh,
yeah. So Chris was a former Marvel editor. And the whole thing happened with the woman and the dog and whatnot. And Chris wrote a story for an anthology book that DC was doing at the time. And he wrote it, and then they got Alitha to draw it, and they got me to ink it. And that started the whole thing. And right after that, they were going to relaunch Nubia, or, actually not even relaunch. She's an old character, and they're just giving her a push. And we got onto that, and it stuck for a while. I mean, I'm still working with Alitha right now, but it's on a project that cannot be named.
Wow. Well, hey, man. That's
the NDA thing.
Well, hey, was glad to know that you're busy. Got some creator-owned stuff, got some DC stuff. Tony Daniel, Alitha Martinez, stuff
Chris
we can't
Cross.
talk about. Chris Cross. Stuff we can't really talk about. But Mark, it's been great. It's been a great interview. Thank you for joining us. Just know you always have a home here on the Sig Slayers station.
Thank you.
Well, that's all for our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe and hit the like button. This is Sig Slayers. I'm Mike, speaking for Mark and Mark Morales. We are out. Peace.
Sig Slayers.